Chip, pre-buys of an aircraft, this is something you do every single day. This is your world. Andy, makes up a lot of what you do all the time on the team. So talk about that world, what you do, and let's break that open a bit.
During the acquisition process, you've identified an aircraft. Your client has told you this is the one I want to pursue. Does he just want to go buy that airplane and then start flying it, or do you feel like it's important to take it into a shop and inspect it? So what's the typical process there?
Unfortunately, you do have a lot of people that think it is that simple. Just go buy the airplane and start flying it.
Buying a car.
Yeah, especially in a hot market, sellers put a lot of pressure onto the buyer to buy the airplane without a pre-buy. Those tax concerns that we're talking about drives a lot, because at the end of the year it's very hard to get a pre-buy done. So you have people that want to buy an airplane as is so that they can put it into operation for tax purposes. I always strongly recommend that my clients do a mechanical pre-buy. So just to paint a little bit of a picture of what that looks like for us, I go and do a visual inspection. We go and do a visual inspection, depending on what type of aircraft it is. King Airs I do myself. If it's jets, it may be me or someone else. But we go do a visual inspection of the airplane. We go through the logbooks. We want to know the history of the airplane, where it's been maintained. So the first step in a pre-buy inspection, before it ever gets to you, is actually the visual inspection. That's when we determine that it's okay to bring the airplane to you, because what we don't want is that airplane to fall out of pre-buy when it's in your shop.
Yeah, you're kind of qualifying it before it makes the trip.
Exactly. Yeah, because once it gets to you, money has been spent, and quite a lot of it. They've got to pay the maintenance facility up front for the pre-buy. They've got to pay for relocating the airplane. There's probably been a test flight done at that point, maybe bore scopes of the engines. So we go and do the visual inspection, do the logbook review. Assuming those things are good, the next step on a turboprop or jet can depend on engine programs, but the next step is typically a bore scope. And I give our client the option. We can have that done by one of the engine manufacturers on site, so that if there is an engine problem, we know about it early on before it gets to the maintenance facility. Or you can do those bore scope inspections at Stevens, which is more economical. So we give them those options. Typically we do a pre-purchase test flight prior to the pre-buy, because we want to determine what squawks might be found in flight, so that we can report those to you, so that they can be handled while the airplane is in for inspection.
It's funny, we've been doing this quite a bit, and you forget the steps before the aircraft even shows up. Yeah. It's an involved process, and having someone there to kind of help a client through that, navigate those waters, is extremely important. And then bringing it into the shop and starting that process. So let's say the airplane is repositioned, everything looks good. You've been through the logbooks at the location, or at the hangar where the aircraft's based. So the aircraft comes into a facility like ours, and we'll just say that. What do you like to see happen from that point? What do you try to encourage your clients to consider? Because I mean, from a maintenance side of things, we can do as much or as little as the customer wants. That's your decision. That's whoever's buying that aircraft. So we're at their disposal. Mm-hmm. What do you think is important, and what do you put value on for an inspection?
Well, I would like to say that that part that you mentioned, taking the airplane and putting it in for pre-buy, that's actually a very critical moment in time. I tell people it's like a dance in more ways than one. We want to get off on the right foot. So whenever possible, I like to accompany the airplane to the pre-buy facility. And hopefully my client's there. Sometimes they go on the delivery flight. Introductions are made between the key people at the shop and the owner of the airplane. If that can't be done in person, then we do it over the phone, so that there's a lot of communication and everybody knows what's going on, and we get things going smoothly. Little things like making sure the logbooks are with the airplane before it gets to your shop.
That's always a hiccup for sure.
It seems to be a common occurrence that people will show up for maintenance for a pre-purchase, and the logbooks aren't there. The QA department has a very important job. They need those logbooks, and they need them as longer that it takes to mechanically inspect the airplane.